The Florida Panthers have clinched a berth in the Stanley Cup Final. Now they hurry up and wait for an opponent. Armando Velez gives us the latest on the Panthers, how they got here, and what to look forward to in the final. All that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. And now we are available on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search for Locked On NHL, and you'll get new episodes as soon as they drop. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show a man who's been on a real roller coaster ride, but enjoying every minute of it this spring and into the summer now as we hit Memorial Day. Armando Velez, the host of Locked On Florida Panthers. And congratulations, Armando, to the Panthers. They sweep Carolina and now waiting for an opponent between Vegas and Dallas. But, you know, we know that right now, the Panthers are going to have at least a week off in between games. Do you think that's something that helps them or hurts them, or maybe a little bit of both?
Gil, thank you once again for having me on the show. It's been a wild ride for the Florida Panthers getting here, and crazy the heartbreak that they dealt with last season, getting swept by the Tampa Bay Lightning and having to change the way this team was built with, of course, the big trade with sending out Jonathan Huberdeau for Matthew Tkachuk and the coaching change, and now they're here and not your typical A seed playing playoff hockey since January 1 of this year. But it's crazy because the Panthers, their road to the Stanley Cup Final, they've been through both, because 2 days after beating the Boston Bruins in 7 games, they go immediately to the series against the Toronto Maple Leafs and win the first 3 games there. They win against the Toronto Maple Leafs in 5. They have quite a bit of a break between that and the conference final. Didn't lose a single beat. So they were able to do both of resting and a quick turnaround in between series. And here's a few interesting stats when it comes to the Florida Panthers and rest this season. The Panthers have had, in the regular season, had a stretch of 5 days off 5 times in the regular season. They're 5-0 each and every time, outscoring their opponents 29-11. This is a tweet via Adam Reed at @AdamReed_. Prior to game 1 of the regular season, defeating the New York Islanders 3-1. The Christmas break, they come back from it. They win against the Montreal Canadiens at home 7-2. All-Star break, and before the All-Star break, let me tell everybody before the All-Star break what happened. It was the biggest, probably the win that changed the Florida Panthers season, where they score with 3 seconds left against the Boston Bruins with Alexander Barkov, and then 13 seconds into 3-on-3 overtime with Sam Reinhart right before the All-Star break. And of course, the Florida Panthers hosting the All-Star game, momentum carrying from then. And then when they come back from the All-Star weekend, they destroy the Tampa Bay Lightning 7-1. March 11 to March 6, 5 days, 9-5 win over the Montreal Canadiens. You know, there's a little bit of a trend here with this Florida Panthers team. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, between round 2 and 3, a 3-2 win over Carolina in quadruple overtime. So they've won in different situations. And this has been in different parts of the season all throughout the year, Gil. So honestly, it's going to be, I've counted now, it's going to be 10 days off for the Florida Panthers from game 4 of the Eastern Conference Final to game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. Now we know when it's going to begin. It's going to begin June 3rd, 8 p.m. on TNT, at least in the States. So now this is more of a time for the Panthers to rest, recoup, get some practice time. It's not like these guys are taking vacations or anything. No. They're together. They are in meetings. They are getting their treatment necessary. And this is I think this is going to be beneficial for the Florida Panthers because they've been through it from the beginning.
So, I mean, I think most observers, and probably even including you, expected that series against Carolina to be a little closer than 4-0, although each game was close. What was the biggest reason they were able to sweep Carolina?
Yeah, and when you think about that, Rod Brind'Amour after the series, he said that they did not get swept. Even though the series score indicates 4-0, and I kind of can see where Rod Brind'Amour is coming from because every single game was a 1-goal game from game 1 all the way to 4, and man, that you're gonna look back, and if you don't click on the season series. You're gonna. A lot of people are gonna think that the Florida Panthers did in fact destroy the Carolina Hurricanes, but that wasn't the case at all. And really, it came down to the continuous tight forechecking that the Florida Panthers had, creating opportunities off of their opponents' mistakes, and of course the goaltending. Sergei Bobrovsky for the Florida Panthers. He's been lights out for the Panthers as well. And here's an interesting stat as well as far as shot block leaders in the NHL postseason. At least from before, this was before Game 5 of Vegas Dallas. Number 1 was the Panthers in block shots. Number 2 is Vegas. The problem with the Panthers last year in their series against Tampa Bay was their inability to get shots to the goaltender, not making Andre Vasilevsky's life hard. And then they put that on a complete 180 and do it on their end as well. So it's Bobrovsky's getting the job done, and the defense around him is also getting the job done. And their penalty killing has just been progressing even better all throughout the playoffs. They're getting this was a unit that went 59% against the Boston Bruins in round 1, and then they go 12 of 14 in the third round against the Carolina Hurricanes on the PK, and both of the power play goals that they gave up was in game 1. Sergei Bobrovsky gave up was 55 of 55 at even strength in game 1, keeping the Florida Panthers in it. And it's just been different ways of winning, whether it's been even strength in game 1 and then shutting it down with the special teams unit from games 3 to 4 as well.
So, I mean, I know both of these potential opponents are not easy teams to beat, but style-wise, do you think that the Panthers match up better with one of these two teams in a potential Stanley Cup final?
I think the Panthers are more similar to the Vegas Golden Knights as far as that. I do think that the Dallas Stars do have the better goaltender in when it comes to this series. But as far as what's around the goaltender, I mean, Adin Hill, he's a journeyman goalie, and like I said earlier with the shot blocks, those guys can get in front of pucks as well. And of course, we all know what, even though Jack Eichel is currently on a little bit of a goalless streak, we know what he's capable of as well. Jason Robertson on the other side has come alive as well. Even though Joe Pavelski has missed the rest of round 1 against the Minnesota Wild and came back in round 2, he's definitely a dangerous on the power play, especially if he got that game-winning goal for them in game 4 to keep their season alive. So it's going to be a challenge regardless for this Florida Panthers team. And the players, it doesn't matter who they're going to face. Both have great power play units as well. I mean, Miro Heiskanen has definitely come alive, of course, with John Klingberg not being on the Dallas Stars anymore. We see more of like what his potential is as a number 1 defenseman as well. And of course, Vegas Golden Knights, they have Alex Pietrangelo there as well. So they have superstar players who are on the defensive end as well, like Mark Stone. He was a Selke Trophy candidate finalist the year that Alexander Barkov won as well. And of course, the multiple surgeries that he has had, he's back with the team, and he's definitely been a difference maker there on the defensive end. So the two different teams just bring so many different things to the table.
All right. Well, Armando, it's going to be a heck of a Stanley Cup final. Why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media as you break it all down for everybody?
They can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. They could also follow the show account on Instagram as well at LO_FLA Panthers. It is booming there as well. Locked On Panthers, wherever you listen to podcasts, and give our YouTube channel also a subscription, as well as you could see, of course, these new graphics on the Locked On NHL network just in time for the Stanley Cup final.
All right, Armando, thank you so much. Great to have you here.
Thank you as always, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. Well, it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, available to U.S. customers only. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.